Live for God Studio Productions.
This is Living Power with Dan Hurst.
And Jesus then goes on teaching more about the law. In verse 33 of Matthew 5, he says, "Again you have heard that it was said to those of old, 'You shall not swear falsely, but shall perform to the Lord what you have sworn.' But I say to you, do not take an oath at all, either by heaven, for it is the throne of God, or by the earth, for it is his footstool, or by Jerusalem, for it is the city of the great king. And do not take an oath by your head, for you cannot make one hair white or black. And what you say, let what you say simply be yes or no. Anything more than this comes from evil." Now, the Pharisees were notorious for taking oaths. I mean, they took an oath about anything, it seemed like. And I mean, it could be the least provocation, and they would take an oath. "You stepped on my toe, I swear by heaven and earth, you will regret the day you met me." I mean, they were always taking oaths. And then later on, if they wanted to be relieved of that oath, that they'd made by heaven or earth or Jerusalem or by their own head, they could argue that since God himself was not involved in the oath, then their oaths weren't binding. So they would kind of wiggle out. The Mosaic law forbade irreverent oaths. The Pharisees they didn't care. They did it anyway. The Mosaic law forbade irreverent oaths. It forbade casual use of the Lord's name. It forbade broken vows. Once Yahweh's name was invoked, the vow to which it was attached became a debt that had to be paid. And it had to be paid to the Lord. That's basically what an oath was. And so by law, to make an oath by heaven or earth or by anything else was to make a binding vow for a debt. And anyone was indebted to what the oath was made by. So if you made the oath by heaven, you would be indebted to heaven. If you made it by earth, you would be indebted to the earth, and so on. But Jesus said oaths should not even be necessary. See, is what he says there? Do not take an oath at all. Don't do it. It's not necessary. The fact that oaths were used just emphasized the wickedness in man's heart. Why would one need to take an oath? To take an oath just proved that man's word wasn't good enough. See, I'll tell you this. And you take an oath, I promise you, I swear that, yada, yada, yada. Well, that's like saying, I know you don't believe me unless I take an oath. We all know that that's not true. If I'm not going to believe your yes or your no, I'm not going to believe your oath. But Jesus was saying it's not necessary. Your life should be sufficient to back up your words. A yes ought to always mean yes, and a no should mean no. And James picked this up in his epistle in James 5:12. "But above all, my brothers, do not swear either by heaven or by earth or by any other oath, but let your yes be yes and your no be no, so that you may not fall under condemnation." Now, I remember when I was a boy growing up. Now, remember, I grew up in a missionary home, Baptist missionaries' home. You don't dance, you don't chew, you don't go with girls that do. You don't do nothing wrong. We weren't allowed to have comic books. We couldn't play cards because they were of the devil. I never went to a dance, a school dance or anything, because dancing is vertical sex. You just can't. It's wrong. And so we just weren't allowed to do anything. And it was amazing that one time I said, I swear, I was grounded for life. I'm still grounded. I'm not allowed to drive my parents' car anymore. Because you just don't do that. You don't swear. And I always thought that what it meant was, and I said, well, I didn't cuss. I thought that's what they were talking about. This is not talking about cussing. This is talking about swearing because your words, because you lack integrity. You can't be trusted. Because it does come down to integrity, doesn't it? It's all about whether you can be trusted. Can your yes be trusted, and can your no be believed?
On behalf of Dan Hurst and the Open Class, we want to thank you for watching. We hope it was a blessing.